Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's masterclass ISO 19650 plus openBIM, a masterclass without the snooze. Thank you so much for joining us. In this session, we are going to demystify the ISO 90,650, making it simple, practical, and easy to apply in your daily work. No boring theory, just real value you can put into action. So we will also take a closer look at Plunderly, a powerful tool that brings ISO 90,650 to life, from planning and collaboration to verification and compliance. It's actually one of our key tools we use in our masters in global BIM management, particularly during the BIM execution plan, where students learn to apply the standard in real-world project workflows. And the best part is that today you will hear directly from the innovators behind Plunderly. So my name is Thaisa Figueroa. I'm institutional manager and program owner here at Ziggurat, and I'm super excited to be the host today. And for those who may not be familiar with us, Ziggurat is an online educational institution with over 20 years of experience in e-learning. We offer master's and postgraduate programs in architecture, engineering, and tech management, helping professionals to worldwide advance in their careers. And we are proud of our diverse and dynamic community with over 20,000 students from 120 countries. And before we move forward, I have already see that the chat is on fire, but let's make today's sessions interactive. We want to hear from you. So please tell us in the chat, where are you joining us from? Let's keep this session lively and full of connection, okay? So I hope to see a lot of answers in the chat. And today's masterclass is closely linked to our Masters in Global BIM Management, a program designed to help professionals, a program designed to help professionals thrive in international teams by managing data, collaboration, and information through the entire project lifecycle. And now I'm happy to introduce Manuela Barbeiro, the International Admission Team Manager at Ziggurat, who will share with you why this program can make a real difference in your professional journey. Manuela, it's over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Taisha. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. Today we are talking about the Master in Global BIM Management. This program goes behind the traditional BIM Master, so it's a career accelerator designed for professionals ready to lead in digital construction. So through a practical project-based approach, you gain a deep expertise in the tools and the method that drive the entire building life cycle. So delivered fully online with flexible scheduling is a perfectly tailored for professionals looking to advance internationally without pausing their careers. Can you go to the other slide, please? At Ziggurat, we do more than teach digital tools. We empower professionals to become leaders of transformation. Through a truly global learning experience, you will connect with experts from around the world, access personalized mentorship, and be supported every step of the way, from our formation to your next career move. Recognized as one of the world's top BIM programs, this master equips you with cutting-edge skills to stand out in the global market. You'll master the coordination of multidisciplinary teams, manage complex data flow across entire project lifecycle, and apply everything through real hands-on case studies, solving the same challenges you face with the industry. Next one. So At Zigora, learning mirrors the reality of the future profession. So you work on simulated project, present your ideas to mentor who act as real clients, and train with the same tools that leading companies have today. Combined with our award-winning methodology and the dynamic campus platform, this program becomes more than from education, but it becomes a true career accelerator. Because what truly set this program apart is the personalized support you receive. You're never just a number. You benefit from dedicated guidance and continuous follow-up to ensure your success from start to finish. And at the same time, our flexible online format gives you the freedom to learn from anywhere in the world. So while remaining a part of a vibrant community, global community of BIM professionals. And behind the classroom, this is a launch pad for your career with an international recognized certification and direct connection to top firms in the sector. You will position yourself for real global opportunities. Next one. Okay. So I want to take a moment to talk about something that many of you probably are thinking about. What kind of career can I actually build in BIM? Right, today, BIM is much more than just a tool. It's a gateway to new high-impact careers in the construction and design industries. We are seeing as a growing demand for professionals who not only understand BIM tools, but who can lead the digital transformation within their organizations. So at Ziggurat, our master built to prepare you for exactly that. You'll gain the skills, the experience, and international recognition to step into roles that are shaping the future in the construction industry. If you're ready to take it, you go to the next step. So this is your moment. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Manuela. And now it's time to meet our special guest from Plannerly, this leading platform in BIM project management. We have today Clive Jordan, the co-founder and CEO at Plannerly, and Eikos Amar, co-founder at Plannerly too. A quick note to everyone: if you have any question, please just drop them in the chat. We will get to them during the Q&A at the end of the session, okay? Clive, Akos, welcome. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. The floor is all yours now, okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And while we transition to Clive's screen, I just wanted to take a moment as well to say that it's a pleasure to be partnering with you. And it's just echoing what I heard from Manuela as well, that we meet professionals from all around the world. And we hear that this program that they go through is a real value add and the change in their career moves. So I'm glad that we can be part of it. And I'm also very happy that that we are here today. We are going to have a lot to share, so probably I will stop talking very soon and just hand it over to Clive. I'm going to be in the chat more, so if there are any questions, please put it in the chat. I'm trying to interact with you there, and yeah, the floor is Clive's.
I don't know how we're going to do this. There is so much to cover, and hopefully we'll stop you from snoozing. It's a very important topic, but yeah, there's a lot to cover. So without further ado, let's get on with a masterclass about ISO 19650 without the snooze. Oh, take a breath. Let's see. So our industry, as a construction industry, what do we really need? We need clarity, we need accountability, and we need evidence to show that we're actually following up on the tasks that we've set everyone. And that's a big challenge, because actually what the industry looks like today is pretty adversarial, pretty challenging, very fine margins, and a lot of people that look at and point at the contract rather than move towards collaboration. And ask ourselves, why is the challenge so difficult to overcome? And really, we found the root cause to be, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of great people and processes, but unfortunately, a lot of the information is unstructured. And so much so, 90% of it is unstructured and 96% of it is unused. It's not even created for a customer, which is kind of terrible. And we then unpacked that. We said, well, why does that occur? Why is that such a big number? Why are we producing 96% of information and nobody's actually using it? And we realized that the traditional approaches that we have today are kind of the fault, kind of the problem. And everything's gone digital in lots of other industries, but in our industry, we find it a challenge. And for project information and setting project information requirements and managing project information, what do? Well, today we use spreadsheets, which are kind of a 1990s tool that are designed for one person to get really detailed and maybe not collaborative and really enabling sharing and understanding of and creating documents that people can then interpret from a machine readable perspective. And what tends to happen is we create more and more of these, and they become more and more cumbersome, more and more difficult, more and more columns, more and more rows, and it just becomes difficult to understand. And number of times I've managed these, and there's no way that we could get away without spreadsheets. Let me make that clear. They're brilliant tools and they're useful in their specific regard. But when we're trying to collaborate and trying to share with others, it's a very difficult because it's so flexible and it really isn't specifically tailored for the needs that we are wanting to define information requirements for. So how, when we've created them, well, how do we share information? So we've created this unstructured content, and what we tend to do, we're in silo-based industry, and we tend to create this information, really important information, and we throw it over the wall to the other team. And we're expecting them to catch it. We're expecting them to for it. We're expecting them to actually understand exactly the format that it's in. And usually it doesn't happen. Usually it's a pretty terrible exchange of information that occurs. And in my experience personally, what I've seen and what I tried to do and solve this challenge is write these BIM execution plans, but unfortunately using Word documents in my past as a BIM manager, I found that I'd create these in many, many pages. And what would happen is people would say, I don't really care about that, Clive. It's not really my bag. I'm not really interested. It's kind of crappy and I don't really understand this BIM thing. And so I also created information requirements and I used spreadsheets, and I thought, hey, this is brilliant. I can share all of my requirements in a really detailed way. And what happened was people said, this is busting my head out open. I really can't understand what you're talking about. And this is just such a terrible thing. And I don't really understand what you're asking for. And then we were creating these 3D models, and I was thinking, wow, this information is so cool. It's so oh man, I just love it. I love the amount of information, just a beautiful thing, and spinning this 3D model cross section and being like really in awe of it. And what they said was, it looks great, but where's the information? Where's the real key detail? I want to know, is this fire rating acceptable under the code that we have agreed to? Like, is this actually going to be buildable? Is it constructible? And I felt like this is kind of like my journey in my area. I was a BIM manager. I was in construction. I was in architecture. I also worked as an owner for a time. And I just, every single time, I was like pulling my hair out. It was a pain for me. And so we kind of looked at it and we said, well, what should we do about it? You know, this is a big problem in our industry. And we realized that we weren't the only ones facing it. It's actually something that isn't a BIM thing. It's actually an industry thing. And information management is a big deal, not just for all of the BIM teams. It's actually for project managers and project teams and the whole company, whether you're in design side or in construction side. So what should we do about it? Well, suddenly the industry, it had an opportunity, and it had an opportunity to have a common agreement about how we should describe things, we should communicate, what the workflow looks like, what the terms we should use, even down to naming conventions for files so that everyone can understand exactly what was in the file without opening it. And this became a power-up move using ISO 19650. So imagine an international framework that everyone can follow and collaborate to achieve an exchange of information that actually is useful for people. So we're creating requirements that are having customers, and we're creating information that actually is needed. So that, remember that 90% of information and 96% goes unused. So it's unstructured and unused. If we could structure it, if we could create a framework that people can understand and exchange it, then the life cycle of that built asset will be immensely more useful and more valuable. And if we can have an open BIM, an enabling exchange of information in a format that people are expecting and can use, we'll get into openBIM, then it can be extremely useful. So what's the agenda today? Wow. Okay, so that's not even the set of slides. We're going to look at the ISO 650 framework. We're then going to dig into 21 examples of how to implement and how to automate that. And then we've got a bunch of resources and some free training and hopefully some time for Q&A as well. Let's see how we get on. One of the biggest things about when we talk about ISO 19650 is that people think, oh, that's just for big projects. It's really complicated and it's so expensive if you want to do it. That's not true. And we'll show you how you can implement it seamlessly, quickly. And actually, we've got a program for in 60 days for your company to be able to implement ISO 19650 and get the efficiency benefits and get the opportunity to win more business as a result. The framework is about standardization and having common terminology. It's about defining roles and responsibilities so that teams can understand who should do what at what point in time should they do that. And it's about the whole entire life cycle of every single built asset, whether that is a building or a railway or anything in our world, anything that you're physically designing, constructing, operating, maintaining. It is a framework for that. Why is it important? Well, it's important because if we all have a standard in each country, in each way, in each company, then you're all going to be thinking you have a standard, but you actually don't follow something that is common for everyone. So a global standard really streamlines things. It really makes it a lot clearer and essentially sharing information at the right time, because we're all about in the standard about exchange of information, defining clear information requirements, understanding how to verify them, creating a workflow that people can actually jump onto and repeat. It means that you actually get an opportunity to go global, even if you have been working locally. It allows you to work with teams around the world following this same workflow. The key concepts, man, there are many, but we talked about roles, so defining clear roles. We look at these 4 things here, which are the organization as a whole, so as an owner, an appointing party, you'll hear that term more, but somebody that is employing you, somebody that's paying the bills, has an organization reason for being in business. They have a project specifically that they need to define and understand, and then they have assets that they need to maintain on a building. So these sets of requirements are defined clearly so that teams can understand what to exchange at what point in time. We need to understand capability and capacity. So how the team, the supply chain, are they going to be able to deliver what is being expected? And whether we have processes in place that are internal or external, we need to understand what those processes are. We need to classify information in a way that can be exchanged. We need to be able to totally collaborate, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's so much that is included in this. But I hear you. You want it simple. Everyone wants simple. So when we look at ISO 19650, sometimes, man, and I've done it. Our team has done it. We've read the terms and we go, hold on one second. I didn't understand anything I just read. Let me reread that for the 6th time. And once you've reread it for the 6th time and you boil it into something that can actually be used, you end up with something like this. And this is where we have done some of the hard work to provide diagrams. We'll provide you these links as well in the resources. But really, this gives us an opportunity to boil down the whole workflow into a simple step-by-step guide. There are 8 different stages, different steps in this, which range from when you start, you're assessing what you need as an owner, as an appointing party, and you're defining your tender requirements as a set of exchange information requirements. So this is where we start with an EIR. The important step here where we're actually appointing somebody, if you don't have the capability as an owner, to help manage that as an information manager. And once you've defined that tender, you're going to need to get a response and appoint a team or teams to be able to carry out the work. It's led by this lead appointed party who compiles a tender response, gets appointed, and then starts to define more detailed requirements for the contract. And at all times, including the appointed parties' sets of requirements and tasks so that they can become part of the contract. Overall, this is a collaborative framework that really helps to define a way of setting requirements, a way of actually showing that you have the capability to fulfill those requirements, and a way to appoint not just one party, but all parties throughout that workflow. We then have the ability to mobilize correctly. So we're mobilizing technology and resources and understanding exactly how to get started, producing information, and in a way that we are producing the information that we can exchange information and check that it's meeting those requirements. So machine readable and automated delivery, and then learning. And the principle about this whole workflow is that when we're seeing the gaps, we're then being able to complete that workflow and improve that workflow for the better the next time and the next time and the next time. This is really a diagram that can help you explain to others what the whole thing is all about, and hopefully it will help yourself to be able to picture where you are, which swim lane you fit in, and how that workflow will be part of your processing. So that's how, that's overall like what we need to do in the workflow. But how should we request information? Well, ISO 19650 has a really detailed approach to describing those information requirements. And in that world, it is called level of information need. Level of information need is a concept that really says, this is how, in a really clear way, I can describe my requirements, the purpose for those requirements, and describe them in a way that somebody else can really truly understand and deliver on. What does it look like? Well, it's a framework that includes the geometry, information, and documentation, so 3 main key areas, but it also says, why do I need the information? Let's start with a purpose. Let's define the delivery of when it's required as a milestone. Let's understand who is required to deliver it as the actors. And let's understand what is required as from an object perspective, but also from whether it's a report or whether it's a certificate or something that is related, a document set that is related. It could require geometry, and we'll go through all of these different buckets, but it's describing in a clear way and in a way that everyone can understand, that they can then produce the information. Does it need to be super accurate? Does it need to be nice and realistic so that somebody can render it? Maybe it doesn't need to be that accurate from an accuracy tolerance perspective, but it needs to be really beautifully rendered for the owner to understand what it might look like. You can describe this, you can identify what information is required, and also what sets of information from a documentation perspective are required as well. And we can go into this in a lot more detail. The framework, when we look at it in practical approach, and we'll go into this in example in the software as well, the first step we saw there was purpose. So defining a column, essentially a milestone that says, this is the purpose, this is why I need the information. If I need a certain, maybe a riser designed from an MEP, a mechanical, electrical, plumbing perspective, that needs to be coordinated, I need to understand when that needs to be defined and delivered, and also who needs to be responsible, and et cetera, et cetera. So first of all, we need to define a column and understand exactly when that should be delivered. And it has a date specifically for when that's being delivered. We also then need to understand what the scope is. So we have a list of all of the scope. What are the items that we need to define? That doesn't just stop at BIM, as we mentioned. It's things like appointing an information manager, important things like defining the exchange information requirements. These are tasks that should be identified as deliverables, and they could be assigned a specific date as well, and a specific team, and a sequence, and a whole bunch of things. That's really clear definition of information requirements, and not just about the BIM side of things. When you start to understand for each milestone that there is a different set of information, a different set of geometry, documentation, and information, I should say, that's required at each stage. So for a structural estimate, we might need 2D information and a checklist. At 3D, at MEP coordination, we might need the underground foundations, and we might need some of these systems to be able to design. But at asset handover, we might just need the conditions and some of the operate and maintain equipment, and also the information related to them. How often does that need to be updated, maintained, etc.? Once we've got that, we need to understand who's responsible. And so in this stage for MEP coordination, there are actually responsibilities for the structural team in addition to the mechanical and plumbing teams. And it's also really key to understand that this process of design flows through many, many team members. So you might have a structural estimate with 2D requirements, but then that's designed by the architect. At a later stage, the MEP might be needing some stairs designed by the structural engineer because they need to be more detailed or more accurate. So we need to understand this handover responsibility is really key as well. understanding all of that in a framework that everyone can collaborate on, agree to, not just call it a contract agreement and think that people understand it, but actually use a collaborative framework that not just is about what should go in it, but also collaborate on whether I agree with the requirements that have been set. So collaborative agreements rather than just contract agreements is really what we can achieve through this workflow. In a practical sense, this is what it can look like. So you can start to see when you open each one of these tasks, you can understand a description and a checklist. What are the conditions of satisfaction? Who is it assigned to? What does it need to look like? What are the specifications that need to be maybe related to this? And even down to this is how to deliver this, and videos or documentation that can really help with the team understanding what the requirements are and understanding how to deliver it. So we can dig into all of this. So the principle of level of information need is covering all of these bases. It's a framework to be able to understand how to do all of these things. But how, I hear you scream, how does this openBIM get involved? We've been talking about ISO 19650 and a framework and these general terms. openBIM, let's take a look at that. It's really about interoperability and how the exchange of data can be automated and optimized and standardized. Building Smart is the champion. That's the home of openBIM. And it's really about making sure that we're vendor neutral, making sure that we understand how that data could be shared in a way that somebody else can import it without a whole bunch of interoperability concerns and challenges. And oh, I didn't believe. So when you exchange a file and somebody can't read it, I liken this like a PowerPoint file. We've been transitioning between lots of different tools, and if somebody sends you a PowerPoint file in a certain format and then you open it up in Google presentation, Google Slides, and sometimes some things are off and the text isn't there, and it kind of just loses that. But if you share it as a PDF, then people see exactly what you need, what you wanted them to see. So in this same form, if you're sharing files using IFC, the desire is that you are sharing the right set of information in the right format so that they can use it in their tools and their workflows in a way that is seamless and enhances the collaboration, informed decision-making, and really does reduce the opportunity for those errors. There are lots of components to openBIM, but two of them that we just wanted to highlight today: one, the Building Smart Data Dictionary, and two, the Information Delivery Specification. These are two key components because this one helps us to define the requirements in the same way and using the same data dictionary, same dictionary. And this one helps us to share them in a way that teams can understand and use it in a machine readable format as well. BSDD is an online service. We'll show you how that works. And in simple terms, you're searching just like a dictionary and it's pulling up those terms. So if you're wanting to say these are retaining wall units in a certain code and certain classification and a certain essentially entity, these are ways that we can define them really clearly using a data dictionary that we've hooked up to. In the software as well. The IDS, Information Delivery Specification, if you create a spreadsheet and maybe you can understand it, but really it's difficult for others to understand. If it's in a different format, you name a column differently, or you have multiple different ways of describing your information requirements. The Information Delivery Specification is a standard way for defining those requirements, not just so that we as humans, but also a machine can interpret that. So if I've got a set of requirements and I share an IDS file with you, it means that not only here we can see the way that we can, as humans, can see it and read it, but also we can exchange it as an IDS. And the Information Delivery Specification is an XML format that machines can interpret in a standardized way. That means that when I want to check a certain set of ceilings, I know that I'm checking the right ceilings for the right information, and then I can identify which ones are not following that requirement, that set of requirements. Okay, so we've talked about ISO 19650. We've talked about openBIM. How do we combine the two together? Well, it's a beautiful thing when you can say that we use a data dictionary and really workflow. So where exchange of information meets workflow of ISO 19650. This is really where the beautiful things occur. We can use a data dictionary to define requirements as an information delivery specification. We can share that with so many people that create information, and they share it maybe in a format that people can actually use, which would be the IFC format. That format can be checked, and it can also report on any topics, any issues that are of concern. And through a format that, again, used by Building Smart or created by Building Smart for exchange of these topics, these issues, these challenges, that you can share a list of problems in a format that other tools can understand, and then you can go through this fixing side. If you've done this part really, really well, if you define information clearly as a set of requirements and you've done that in a format that machines can read, then there might not be any issues that could get reported. If you do this proactive loop really well, then this side less likely to be needed. Still needed, but yeah. How does this happen in industry, I hear you ask? That's the important thing. Well, we talked about owners defining their organizational project and exchange information requirements. Well, it's a set of, essentially, they are resources, they're documents, their form and format is a set of tables and text and data, but maybe it's machine readable, or maybe it's a database like this that's driven by data from your project, and it's permission based, it's accountable because it's been shared with certain people and assigned to certain people, and we'll take you through that workflow. Also, we talked about defining information requirements and understanding what should be done, when it should be done, who should do it. So you need some kind of scoping method to define those in a really clear way. So we'll talk about those as well. And when you've created this set of requirements, you need to be able to have a machine readable way to be able to share it and then check it. About this, how we can visualize those updates and make sure that everything is meeting the requirements that you have set. You're doing all of this and you're creating lots of files. And there's a term that's been used for many years now, the CDE, the the common data environment. We actually like to call it the clever data environment because we actually think that there's a lot more automation that you should use, like automating your file naming and automating your file sharing and automating your file filtering and folders and integrating your approvals and your smart contracts and et cetera, et cetera. So this CDE is a collection of all of your important documents so that you have permission, you know exactly where to find them, and you can get through that workflow really, really easily as in an integrated way as well. Okay, we talked about ISO 19650, we talked about openBIM. It's more than just saying you do it, it's more than a checkbox, it's a massive cultural change. We've got some really great training programs already. We also have something that we will affectionately call the digital troublemaker certification as well, that we would love to share. That will be released in 1 week's time as well, available on our training page, and that will give you a business case to really make this change inside of your organization. So something to help you with this culture shift and make this a real adoption rather than just a BIM thing. Implementing this, let's talk about that. So how, when you've got all of these great standards and workflows, processes and formats, how can you actually implement this? Well, you have to ensure, as I mentioned there, everyone's on board. So you have to get the leadership involved. You have to make sure that all of the different teams are involved. So there are lots and lots of different management roles, and when you're implementing things like this, change management is important. I think that our industry hates the word change, so really it's updates and not really a completely different way of working. It's just the things that we're doing today and putting them into a workflow that makes it easier for everyone to communicate and agree with what's going on at what point in time. We can cover a lot more of this, but if you want to do this, wow, it's a long list of things that you're going to need to do. And they range from starting off by purchasing the standard, understanding it, reading it, not just parts 1 and 2, but obviously security and safety and all of the other parts that are really important to the whole workflow. I mentioned about reading it and rereading it, and it's one of those things where it really is something that you need to read a few times to be able to make it stick. You need to be able to go through this and share it with others. You need to understand the complex jargon. You need to map out the processes, identify your gaps. You need to define roles and responsibilities. You need to appoint an information manager. You need to have templates and standards and develop your own BIM execution planning and implement a common data environment and understand file naming and metadata and making sure that files aren't named file version blah, blah, underscore final underscore. And you need to be able to standardize all of this and ensure that everyone has access to all of these things and clear documentation, clear procedures, and develop all the standards and templates and understand how to be audited and fix your historical project. Make sure that there's a long list of stuff to go. Well, so it feels difficult sometimes to be able to implement this. It feels like, you know, maybe they're a bit unfamiliar as a process when you get started, and that can be a bit daunting. So how can we actually benefit from doing this? How can we make it more simple? We took a look at that. And this is where we can get to these practical examples. And we're going to rapidly go through these. So they range from using automation to make sure that you don't spend a lot of time on it in administration and creating things, being able to use templates to create everything, tying into that data dictionary, the information delivery specification, automating your progress reporting, automating file naming, automating all of these, and streamlining all of your compliance. So all of those things are important to get right. Let's start with a single click to create a document. As a team, we create so many resources and so many documents. And I just posted actually on LinkedIn that there was one project that had 7 PDFs that were all called the BIM execution plan, and nobody really knew which one they were supposed to be using. Nobody knew where to access it, and it really does cause a bit of a problem. So the administration side is really difficult. And so we really looked at how to optimize that. I've created a project in here, and actually Akash is part of this project, part of this team. And I'm going to simply go into the docs module inside of Planoly. And one of the things that's a beautiful thing is that you can get started with templates that are out of the box. And simply by, if I need a BIM execution plan and I want to use automation and a database to automate this workflow, you can see here inside of the project information section, that first section here, there are fields that we called smart fields. And if I add this whole document to our project, you can see that those smart fields are automatically completed. That's number one. You can see this project title is completed with my Ziggurat project from our project title. And being able to complete these and fill these in, if I add a date, for example, to one of these, it will be a date that is actually updated in every document that is using this smart field across our set of projects. And so the benefit is that in this one-click document creation, you can have everyone following the same standards. You can really save time, reduce errors, and you can make it consistent across all of your projects. We've seen people define their documents and reduce their administration burden by 80%. So they're really saving a massive amount of time, and it's beneficial to the whole organization, not just for BIM execution plans. Some teams are using this to create everything, even on projects that they're not even using any BIM on. They're obviously creating, as a construction team, you're creating lots and lots of documents, lots of resources, lots of really unstructured sometimes data in Word documents that are spread across emails and PDFs and everything else. Well, what about if you have Word documents already and you want to actually make benefit of those? Well, maybe if you want to add a document to your resources, let me open something here and add something so that we can get an example. So if I've got a document, a Word document, Word documents aren't generally very structured, but if I drop it into Planoly, then you can start to see it's automatically and instantly created a much more structured version. And inside of here, I can then start to identify these areas where I might want to put certain smart fields. So if I wanted to add the project title, let's just say as an example in here, I can start to add the project title. I can see Akash is coming in and starting to make updates as well. So we can all work on this project at the same time and start collaborating. I might actually say that I need Akash to complete something in here. It's the project description that I need Akash to complete. And I can assign this section specifically. So I can then see him coming in here and starting to complete it. So the principle on this one was, while Akos is doing that, I can drag and drop unstructured data and start to make it structured. So in a way that I'm starting to add in here, I'm defining these requirements and making it a lot more structured, not just in a hierarchy that is automatically updated. If I drag these around, you can see that the numbering conventions are all updated automatically, but also making it accountable, making it assignable, making it something that you don't have to wait for the whole document to be finished until you're actually sharing these things with other people and team members. It's a real workflow that you can go through and make it a lot easier for everyone to understand and agree to. When you're creating documents, I'm an engineer and I make loads of mistakes in my writing. Civil engineering, that's my excuse. I'm not an English major, or not. I struggle when it comes to creating something and not having all of those errors in it. So I can see some smiles. So I'm sure that other people are in the same boat. So AI has come along and it's really enabling us to look a lot more intelligent than maybe we are. So if we're working on something, and let me go into a section here that has a lot more text in it. And usually this is what would happen to my content. It would have a bunch of errors in like this. And if I wanted to update it, now we have AI. So now we can just simply select some of that content and hit correct. So with one button, it's now going to fix that content. And it means that I can look more intelligent. And inside of the versions, if I click on the more options here, we haven't had to manually do anything. We haven't had to go through this workflow and fine-tooth comb and reread it. And it's not just the spelling mistakes, it's actually the grammar, punctuation, readability. You can really go to town on this and make sure that it's something that understands our history as well. So it understands that this needs to be corrected to BIM. It understands that my project, it understands everything about what we've got inside of here already. So it's a really quick way of making sure that overall the errors don't go through, the communication is better, and reduce the need for this this constant kind of adoption of really detailed updates that take a long time. One of the things that we as a company want to do is look good, not just on spelling side of things, but also what if we wanted to change our settings and make sure that maybe our global requirements were that we had New Times Roman or Impact as our font type. And this is actually something that now changes not just one document, but all of our documents and everything that has been put in here. So imagine being able to change this across multiple documents, a whole project, without having to really think about it. So this automation of what you are updating, how you're managing, and really taking away that burden and maintaining this consistency across all of your documents and all of your resources. It means you can focus more time on the important things rather than all of the burdensome and troublesome and time-consuming things. We talked about AI in certain places. Well, we also have trained AI to be able to understand the industry so much that we could, if we wanted to, create a complete document. I'm going to just delete this document here. Oh, Akos is commenting on here, so I should probably look at this. He added the description. Okay, great. Let me resolve that. So this is the other part. This is the other part, is being able to understand where people are working, making sure that we're collaborating, making sure that we're happy with what we're doing. I'm going to delete this one because I'm in a free project at the moment. I just wanted to show you everything you can do in a free project as well, so you know about any of the restrictions. But you can have 2 document tabs in a free project. If I start AI, I could just tell it what I want, and I want a BIM execution plan. If I put BEP, it would know what I want. Maybe I want a project brief. Or an NDA or something like that. And if I was to create this, just simply by doing this, and if I hit create complete document, it's going to understand my industry. It's going to understand what I'm actually doing, where I'm at, what my role is, etc. And it's going to start creating this content. So using AI can give us a starting point. And I simply put in 3 letters in that example. So I'm not really sure what it's going to come up with, but we'll see. And it might be a good starting point. Might be, yeah. So we can see here, purpose of the NDA, describes the NDA, goes through all of these different things, describes what confidential information is, parties involved, etc., duration of the agreement, etc. This is all created automatically, so you can spend time making sure that it's perfect for you. The beauty of this as well is that actually we already have a template for an NDA, a mutual NDA. So that might even be even more automated if you use the library. And if I add this from our library, you can start to see that it's all automated and everything is filled in, or the smart fields can be filled in to make this even more rapid and quick. So we can complete documents, we can add documents, we can generate documents. All of that is to make sure that it's easier and quicker to create. We can automate the exporting, the formatting. It means that we don't spend hours in formatting as well. So imagine if we've got multiple documents in here and we want to create a single document with maybe only the approved content. So maybe there's some published content that we want to share, or maybe there's a specific set of content that's assigned to a specific team, or a set of documents, maybe 3 documents out of the 10 documents of the project we want to combine, and we want to create a nicely formatted export. Well, in order to do that, we just hit export, and we can do that in a simple process. And just by saying, I would like a cover page, I'd like a details, I'd like a list of what the documents are. And you can see all of this formatting over the right-hand side. At the moment, no documents, but if I said I want this BIM execution plan, it shows on the index. I want a mutual NDA, it shows on the index. And then each one of these documents also has its own index automatically created, and everything is filled in. So I could filter this for the certain teams. All of this is really easy to automate. I'm going to call this, actually, I'm just going to hit create. It's going to create as an untitled export. But this will join all of those different parts together without us even thinking about it. And it will produce us with a nicely formatted cover page, all of the details, everything I haven't even had to do, headers and footers. Everything is hyperlinked. So if I click on things, it will go to that BIM execution plan. Everything here is hyperlinked. So if I click on that, it will go to here. Everything is driven by these smart fields. So you see that Akosh completed one of these smart fields and it filled in. Everything is automated, so you don't have to think about it. And everything looks professional as well. So you go through this process and everything is easy, so that it's all in one workflow. The other part is, if you every day you had to create a report and send it to somebody, it would be pretty time consuming. So we wanted to automate that as well. And you'll also see in the bottom left-hand corner, file manager. Everything that's created or uploaded in here then gets added to this file manager. And if I wanted to send this report every week on Monday morning to Akosh, I could say auto version this on a weekly basis on a Monday morning, send it to Akosh, put my message in here and enable this. And now it will automatically run that report, and it will then send it to him every single time that it's updated and on a Monday morning. So it's pretty automated, pretty nice to make that easy and make that flexible, make that something that he can use and everyone can use it. Once you have these and prepared and documented and send them to everyone, you're going to want to start to look at the so one of the things we talked about before was openBIM and the Building Smart Data Dictionary, and understanding exactly what needs to be, how you should be classifying things and what you should be using as a term and terminology. And so if we looked at the next step, which would be scoping some of these things, I could start from the library again and understanding the project requirements and defining people's project requirements from the library. But what if I wanted to define this and just start typing with something in my project? Well, obviously, if you just opened any application and started typing, and I type wall, it's not going to give me anything related. I haven't told it what I want to search with or what I want to use yet. But if I go to my project dashboard and then I start to look at the project settings, I click on the to go to the project settings, we can start to define the different data dictionaries. And if I was to link this up to an example, the class is a good one because it's got a lot of content in, and also hook up to IFC for the 4.3 for the properties library. Then if I go back to my scope, and now when I start typing, it's going to search that Building Smart Data Dictionary for this term, and it's going to reply with all of the different types of wall that are in here in this workflow. So if I wanted to bring in concrete wall systems, it's linked to the Building Smart Data Dictionary. It's named in exactly the right way. And we can also have the code, the classification code, and even the entity type of the fact that it's an IFC wall, all defined in this as a clear set of requirements. So being hooked up to the Building Smart Data Dictionary, machine's running a bit slow, here we go, is means that everyone's speaking the same language, everyone's using consistent terminology, and everyone's really able to focus on the important parts of the project rather than wondering and filtering and finding things. When you're creating this, it seems like, well, I don't want to create this manually every single time. And yeah, who would want to? What we really want to be able to do, and let me delete that one milestone, is to be able to use a library and to be able to use content that maybe we've done before, we've worked on before. So if we've got an example project or we've got a project that we have used before, that's available here in the Planoly templates. If you go to example project, there's a bunch of content here. And this content could be ranging from tasks like setting up a project. So if we include project setup, we can also include things like the model responsibility matrix. And let's say we want to include the architecture in that. And then in the master information delivery plan as well, there might be some activities and management tasks that we want to look at. So the architect might have certain tasks. So let's include the master information delivery plan as well. And then we can take a look at what we have. So in here, we've got now tasks for project setup. So appointing an information manager, setting up a common data environment, understanding all of the tasks that we need to do, checklists, etc. And we also have a set of architectural requirements. I'm just going to move these to the top. And then we can start to see for these required uses, a 3D coordination model, a cost estimate, and asset handover, what are the elements that we require and what are the information requirements that we would like to use? So for a specific team, we saw this in the level of information need. It's a purpose. So why do we need this deliverable, this task? It's a set of geometry. It's a set of potentially documentation as well. So attachments and information related to this. It's a checklist of the conditions of satisfaction. It's a set of information, detailed information requirements, and saying that maybe we need a fire rating. Let me check these and say we need a fire rating. It needs to be one of these values, and therefore I can automatically check this when a model comes in as well. So really selective, powerful ability to then go through this and agree to it. So I can start to say, this is an approved task. I am proposing this task. And you can go through and collaborate with others to understand these. And what I wanted to do was make sure, okay, so we've got some ceilings in here. We've got some tasks in here. Let me just take that one across here as well so that we've got ceilings with some information requirements. I just want to make sure that we have some things that we can then check as well. Doors, ceilings, cool. Okay. I'm going to go through the next steps as well to be able to automatically check this. Man, we're running out of time, but we are going to get there if the slides cooperate. Once we've created this, we need to be able to share it with others so that they can actually read it. Well, we can export in an information delivery specification and in a quick click. I'm not going to go through all the details, but there you go. That's created. And now we've got this really detailed set of requirements as a machine readable. And here's the set of values for the fire rating on that task. We could share this with the team and help them understand exactly what they need to do. And it means that everyone can use a checking tool or they can use Planoly to be able to go through that process. once we are going through this and we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page, we want to automate progress reporting. And we mentioned that we could create versions and auto version these reports, but these reports could also be a report of the status of some of these tasks. And maybe we want to set up a details report, and only those tasks that are approved will get sent to the teams every day. So you can see creating these reports can be not just a page from the document, but also we could add the grid. So we can start to see the tasks that are approved in the grid and also in the details, and understand what the conditions of satisfaction are and all the information required, et cetera, et cetera. And that can be distributed and automated and based and made to be easily accessible by everyone. Once we have defined these requirements, we need to be able to check them, and there are ways to be able to do that in an automated fashion using these rules. But if sometimes the requirement is so detailed, and I didn't go to school to learn regular expression, but let's say the acoustic rating doesn't need to be a number between a certain number and another one, but we want to use a rule to say that follow acoustic ratings in there you go, approve that I'm an engineer. Acoustic ratings in just say, let's say UK. And using this, it can start to define rules around what this should follow, what rules it should follow, and how it should be understanding. And maybe this is something that you can refine. But using AI, we can start to generate these rules and these checking requirements, and those ways of automating our model checks really make sure that we are creating a set of requirements that are much more useful and easier for people to understand and utilize. Once we've created a set of tasks, we then start to say, well, I need to understand who is responsible for these tasks and when they're responsible. So if I want to start to understand what the coordination timeline might look like, you could switch from a grid view to a timeline view and start to understand these are the tasks, and each of these tasks, they start and end on certain days, and being able to set the dates, being able to set the people that are responsible for these tasks is incredibly important when we look at the task information, master information delivery plan. So these are tasks that aren't just a task on a grid, but they're also a set of tasks that are also displayed in a timeline as well. And that can be automated and shared and updated and etc. and output as a PDF, and actually generated a combined PDF of all of these things together. Once they are all combined together, we're going to want to get a signature on these things. So imagine if we could create a document now that not only had a nice cover page, and it had our BIM execution plan, and it had a grid, but it also had a timeline and the set of details required. So everything was in here, and you could see exactly, this isn't having to go to 7 different tools and create PDFs and then combine PDFs and upload them somewhere else. This is all integrated, all automated, and this can be the contract as well. And this contract can then be versioned and sent to people, and so on and so forth. I want to get to some more of the fun automation as well. Okay, so model checking as well. When we start to get to the model checking side of things, we move into the verify module. And this is where we start to say, I have models that have been submitted by teams and around the project, whether they're the architect, the MEP, the structural engineer, etc. And I want them to be able to check if this ceilings model meets the requirements that I have set for them. And if it doesn't meet the requirements, if I can see that they're only 29% complete on these, I want to be able to check and see which of the elements is not meeting the requirements that I've set up. Or I want to be able to check which doors or what parts of this model are following or not following the requirements. And being able to do that in a really clear way, being able to identify where those pieces are, and also being able to identify the properties on them and communicate around them. That's the important part, and making sure that it's in an integrated form is incredibly important. So the verification of that workflow integrated in a way that people can understand is incredibly important. Right. Okay. It also means that instead of me having to check everyone else's work, it means that teams that are submitting the model check their own work before they're actually generating these long reports of exceptions and problems that people are having in their models. Everything that's imported into your workflow should automate rather than cause a burden. So when we're talking about versioning and we're talking about file naming, these are two things that are automated inside of the file manager here. We can see all of the versions. So if I was to create a new version for this, it would automate that new version. It would show all of these in a concatenate in a history. So you know you're accessing the latest version all of the time. And if we wanted to have a file naming standard or set up additional metadata, it's as simple as setting up the settings and then choosing how we want to name our files and how we want to concatenate the names on our files. So imagine if we wanted to set this up and follow the whatever annex of ISO 19650 that you're following. You can choose from whatever the data is that you want to put as your concatenation. I'm just going to choose some random stuff because I need to quickly do this. And then it's going to fill in this. We haven't set a project title. Sorry, a project. Let me go back and set up a project ID. And when I've set up a project ID and I go back to File Manager, I can start to see these things are completed automatically. So everything should be automated that can be automated. And every time a file is produced, we really want to make sure that it is filed automatically and named automatically and shared automatically and permissioned automatically, etc. So we looked at, and also, yeah, filed automatically. So imagine if you're able to say the approved owner documents, these ones, need to be put in a certain folder. So I'm going to create filter here. I'm going to save a filter, and this is going to be approved. And now, anytime that approved documents or change their status in the metadata, they'll fall into this category. And imagine if that then synchronizes with other CDEs around your workflow so that every time a document is created, every time a document is updated, every time it matches certain metadata, it falls into a certain folder and it synchronizes with the other CDEs and other tools that you're using. Okay. We talked about many different things, but the whole point is to try and streamline and make sure that everyone's following this same workflow that is ISO 19650. And in order to do that, we've got a couple of really good resources. One of them is a training course that is focused on your company compliance. It gives you a checklist. It shows you how to work through this and make sure that your company is following the right steps so that they can get certified. That's available. We'll definitely give you a link to that. Inside of that, you have a free checklist that goes 650 says you should be doing. You filter it based on your party, what type of team you are, and then you're able to check off or find out the gaps that you're not working on and that you need to do. Let me finish quickly with some resources to help you implement these two things, ISO 19650 and openBIM. The first one is a three-step system. This is what we just described, that basically trains you, applies the knowledge, and helps you get certified. We'll share the link for that. openBIM, we talked a lot about it. There's loads of different aspects. We've got a great blog that talks about 10 of the things that you really need to know about openBIM. If you're new to ISO 19650 or if you need to share it with others, then we have this 5-minute overview, which is really quite another fast pace, but condenses a lot into 5 minutes. If you've got a few more minutes, there are 21 videos in this YouTube series, which is ISO 19650 Explained. It's on the Plannerly YouTube channel. If you're interested in getting certified, then there is a link here that takes you through that workflow in 3 simple steps. If you're interested in just learning about information management and how to define your level of information need requirements, then there's a video here. If you're interested in the IDS and BSDD workflow, then there's a video here. We'll share all of these links. If you're interested in training, there are a bunch of courses. These are all free on our training site, plannerly.com/training. Ask your professors and your teams if you can get credit for these. That's what a lot of teams are doing around the world, applying that to their courses. And if you're asking yourself, now what? You've shared a lot of information. What should I really focus on? These are the three things. Join one of those certified training programs and try to get that checklist from the ISO 19650 program. So they're two of the real key ones. Obviously, I'm going to say try Plannerly. It's free, but you guys are using it on the anyway. So get into it and ask us questions. The team is here to help you, and we are really excited to understand how you get on with your journey in ISO 19650 implementation and using openBIM workflows and principles. Hopefully now we have a little bit of time for some questions, maybe, but I'll just leave this up. And if you want to connect with us on LinkedIn, there are 2 QR codes for connecting. Oh.
Thank you, Clive. I mean, just sharing a little bit of secret, we agreed with Clive that we are going to share some of this presentation, but you were such in a flow that I think I would just have disturbed your presentation. It was a lot of content. In the meantime, I was trying to share some of the links that you were also showing. So go to plannerly.com and just wander around and see the resources, the blogs, the training. Get in touch with us with the meeting link that I also shared in the chat panel. And then we had some really good questions as well. I tried to answer them. What do you think? Should we read some of those out and waiting while we are waiting in the next 5 minutes for some more questions? Maybe we can answer them live as well.
I would only comment that was a really impressive presentation, Clive. I was really and it was really clear and understanding. Thank you so much. I saw that Akos do his best to answer the questions here during your presentation because we have a lot of questions. I think we are a bit out of time for keep continuing the questions, but I would like to ask you to leave a message for our audience, and we can finish this session in this way. And I know that Akos already sent the contacts on the chat, so please, everyone that didn't get the opportunity to have your questions answered, contact Clive and Akos, find them on LinkedIn, contact them, that they are super open to answer everything and take every doubt that you have. So yes, Akos put again the link on the chat. So Clive, Akos, a message for our audience.
I'll share. There's a lot to cover, but we do a lot of this today in our industry, and it's I think that the people specifically on this call are the people that can help our industry adopt a digital, more efficient, and just a better way of working. And we're here to help. So whatever we can do to help you to be more efficient, to help your companies implement just a more streamlined workflow, that's what we get up for every day, and that's what you can lean on us. So just let us know what we can do for you. That's what my ask is.
If I can add to that, the only thing what I would say is that we are trying to simplify this entire workflow as much as possible. So you might have seen the ISO 19650 process chart as well. That's a lot of reading that we try to put into an easy to understand process visualization, and also the templates and the framework that you can get access to will help you to implement all these in a simple way. If you saw my back, which you don't, our t-shirts typically say BIM made simple. So that's really the mission that we are on every day, to try to demystify this entire building information modeling and information exchange and make it simple for everyone.
Perfect. So a big thank you to Clive, to Akos, and the Plannerly team for sharing their knowledge, their insights with us today. That was really impressive. I'm in love with this presentation, Clive, for sure, for real. And of course, thank you all for being here and engaging with us. Stay tuned and join us in our next events. Until then, take care and see you soon. Bye bye. Thank you.